Hello again. We're on day two with recording. Um, we're in my backyard and whatnot. And today I want to talk about grief again. So if this is not for you, you're not interested, thank you for watching. And I'll see you another time. But talking about grief and how it impacts friendships and dating. And it's just like we don't talk about or we don't hear about the residual loss that happens as a result of grieving, right? And not even just residual loss. I think there's growth that happens as a result of it as well. If you are diligent about healing and working on yourself and trying to overcome all the things that have come with your grief. So, having said that, I want to start off by saying that I'm not a victim and I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just explaining things how they are to me, how I've experienced them, and from my perspective. So, this is more so about like dating while grieving, how your friends have shown up or did not show up, and like there's the uncomfortable feelings that result um in these things playing out this way. So for me, I was never prepared. Nobody's ever prepared for the way that people can fail you or not give you grace or not grow with you when you're grieving. And I personally expect support, or did expect, I still expect it now, support, closeness, people being curious, people witnessing me or seeing me, and then just in generally understanding me. But I didn't get that. What I got instead felt like isolation, confusion, and lack of support. And that was a new experience for me because I have never felt what it has felt like to be lonely. Like I've never had an experience being lonely before. It's just not. I don't know. I think maybe obviously people experience it, but like I've never had a problem with being alone. And my siblings are so much older than me that by the time I made it to middle school, they were already out the house. So I just had this long life of being by myself, like kind of living like the only child a little bit. So I never really had an issue with being by myself. I never really experienced lonely, but it's a different type of loneliness, I guess, when people can't see you, they cannot relate to you, they don't understand, and they're not curious, and there's no connection. So, um, as a result, it's not just the loss of the people that passed away, but also Jesus, but also the loss of expectation, the loss of emotional safety, and the loss of what you thought these relationships were. So that can make you angry. It can make you frustrated. It can make you feel like you're not supported and understood, and that's exactly how I felt, right? But on the underbelly of all of that is that I was the person that everybody went to. I am, fortunately, unfortunately, clairvoyant as a result of ADHD, right? So people do come to me for a lot of guidance. I am the emotional container for a lot of people, and I hold space. I listen, I support, I guide, and I even do it in like client work too. But I've always done it with like personal connections first. So it's hard doing that and then still feeling unseen, unsupported, unheard, and there's no reciprocity, right? So I had a lot of reckoning to go through and think about in terms of how I show up in relationships and what I need from relationships because my capacity and my needs had changed, unfortunately. So um, even if I had never gone through the grief, I think it was going to always get to this point where I realized that this is depleting. It's depleting. Nobody's pouring back into me. I can't be the only one that shows up in this relationship this way, and it can be very one-sided, right? So the grief didn't just take my parents away; it took away what I thought I knew in terms of friendships. It didn't take away anything in dating per se, but I'm going to talk about dating too. But kind of like it reshapes how you relate to people. I have my iPad, by the way. It reshapes how you relate to people and how you navigate the world. So, you kind of live your life thinking that these people could see you, when in reality, what it was is that I already had what I needed from my dad. Like I said, I think I was kind of codependent in a way, and I didn't need to be fed or poured into from other people as long as I had him. The problem is he was just one person, so that's the problem with it overall. But number two, then I was expecting or hoping that people would adjust with me and be able to fulfill that role or fulfill those needs rather, and they couldn't. So, um, I'll talk about friendships first because that's like the majority of it. I'll talk about dating, I guess, on the later end. But nonetheless, when my mom first died, my mom was the first to pass. When my mom first died, I had a friend. They came to the memorial or the viewing or whatever. Wasn't able to make it to the funeral. That's fine. But it's like a few weeks, or yeah, a few weeks or so after I had got back home from the service and whatnot, it's like this person went radio silent. Radio silent. Like I'm pretty sure I probably texted or called at some point. No response. Right. And I thought that was just so weird because one, you called yourself my best friend. That's first and foremost. And this person, at this point, I had been knowing them since I was about like 21 years old. So about 10 years, you know? And I thought that was just so strange and so crazy. And especially because they had already lost a parent, but they lost their parent when they were like a child or whatever. But still, you know what that absence is like. So that was the first friend. The other friend, who I've considered a very close friend as well, I used to call them my soulmate actually. Um, we were kind of like on the rocks before then, but we were like still touching base throughout this time leading up to my mom getting sick and then passing. Um, and even when like my mom did pass, they reached out, or before she passed, but we talked before she passed, but when she did pass, they reached out, all of that stuff, and like again, radio silent, and it's like the excuse was being in school, in grad school, like I didn't carry you, support you, help you, and just be a friend to you while I was in school, you know. So, um, other people, like it did a lot. Those two people leaving and moving out the way did make space for other friends who were showing up for me better, who were always there. I kind of think of it like the MySpace top 8. I'm not ranking friends, obviously, but like these people were always in the vicinity or proximity of my friendship circle. So they kind of just moved up in the ranks, I guess. But then also, I have never been a stranger to letting people go, cutting people off. We've outgrown each other. We can't go forward anymore. We don't see eye to eye, or whatever the case may be. Like I've never been opposed to that. So literally, I think it was before my mom passed, or maybe right after she passed. One person reached out. We hadn't talked since the pandemic, and they were kind of like more so apologetic and whatnot. But I didn't want them to go into this. Oh, let me try to rekindle because I know you're grieving. I was like, oh no, absolutely not. I was going through too much stuff that I wasn't reaching out to them either. But I didn't want them to think one that I was mad at them because I wasn't. But two, I wanted to let them know like there are some things about you, social or character wise, that I just don't agree with. But I know this is how you're socialized to be. This is how you've grown up, and this is why you are like that. And I don't expect you to change. But I don't align with that anymore. Now, in hindsight, I wish I kind of would have waited and did that. But I'm not a taker. Like I'm not gonna just make you think things are goody goody and they're not. Then another friend, we would talk, I think like maybe once a month, but it felt one sided. She often didn't share a lot of things about herself. I would have to ask. It's like I'm facilitating conversation, getting information out of her, but she's not asking anything of me. But also the information I'm getting out of her is just like, oh, how's your parents? How's your siblings? How's school? How's work? Nothing like so they I don't know what they had going on because they didn't articulate it. So therefore, it's not my responsibility. But I do wish they would have advocated a little bit more for the friendship. But because they didn't, and because they could not show up for me like I needed, which was just more frequent communication, more intimate closeness. Like we're supposed to be friends. We've been friends. I think at that point, maybe it had been maybe 6 or 4 years. I don't know. But let them go. And even a childhood friend, I had to let go simply because they didn't like the way that I was grieving. They didn't like my opinions about how my mother passed and what led to her passing and whatnot. And my thing is, this is my mother, not yours. It's my relationship, not yours. You can't tell me how to feel, and you can't tell me that you feel like I don't have any compassion or that we don't know what would have happened when scientifically we do, statistically we do. Um, and they weren't apologetic. And that's really the main thing. It's not that we disagreed, it's the fact that they weren't apologetic. And one thing that I don't do, I will say, if you don't validate my feelings, it's okay. You ain't got to hear from me ever again. Because validation doesn't mean you have to agree, but I do need you to understand. And two, when you are not willing to apologize, that means that you don't really care about how you make me feel. And I don't have space for anybody like that. So I think that's 6 people, 5 people right there, right? So like I said, I'm not a victim. Okay, some of these things I did on my own, other things it just like happened along the way. But having said that, what I was left with were friends who weren't new. They were still around, but I think for me, I was confusing communication with closeness, right? And only to find as the years went on that some of these people avoid hard conversations or hard feelings. Some people have said the wrong things. And one thing I do appreciate about Grief Share is that it tells you to kind of have grace for people, but to what extent? For example, I have had a friend that it wasn't even a year, it wasn't even 6 months because it was still hot outside, complained to me about them and their mom getting into a conflict. I don't have a mother. Why do you think I want to hear this? Read the room, pay attention. Like, it's not just, I don't want you to feel like you can't ever come to me about those things, but it's still new. You could have waited or you could have talked to somebody else about that. Um, but then also, what's the word? Some people even, it had got to a point after a few years, I would say, I was given a little bit of time, but it was kind of like this expectation that I should be over it. Why? How? When I'm doing the reading, I'm doing the therapy, I am, trying to stay physically active and do things. I'm trying to be mindful of my health. Can't you see that I'm trying? Like, why? It's apparent. It ain't. It's apparent. It's foundational. So, yeah, it was just really an unfortunate reality check that many people are not equipped emotionally, or were not equipped, or are not, I don't know, emotionally to handle grief. And not everyone has the capacity to be present, to be consistent, or to have emotional depth. Like, I can't teach that to you, right? But like, being honest, a lot of the times when I was talking to people, the conversation wasn't even often about grief to begin with. It was always about other stuff, them and their things, and then other things that I may have had going on because I was still working and having everyday life activities, right, including dating. But yeah, it's like, in hindsight, I feel like I had these unspoken expectations because I just thought that it didn't need to be explained to you that I needed you to show up a certain way, you know. But it's still unspoken, so I do have responsibility for that. But then also, um, when I needed help with things, particularly with my coaching business, like, it asking for help and then not getting it, that did something to me. That made me feel some type of way. And not that I was even asking for a lot because I have ADHD. All I needed was like body doubling. I just needed you to keep this as a topic of conversation, and then like a lot of them couldn't even do that, right? And I don't know from their experience how they feel about it, though I have asked. Again, everybody doesn't have the language or the emotional capacity to do things like that. So having said that, I think for me at that moment it felt like abandonment. Like, wow, I'm not asking nobody for no money, I'm not asking for more time than what we already spend together. um Nothing special or different out of the ordinary that you're not capable of doing. But it couldn't be done for whatever reason. So, having said that, it took me a while. It took me, I guess, it's May 2026 now. It took me up until, I guess, February to realize, because I started having all these different health things, child allergies. I'm allergic to everything. And it is true, you can become allergic to things over time. But what's the word? It was just so consistent back to back. Like, one year was this, then it was that, then it was this. Like, the year my parents passed, well, I grew up having no allergies besides like seasonal. But then when I turned 25, I got a nut allergy. Devastating, girl, because me and my mama made the best peanut butter cookies, but we stayed um eating stuff up. So then, what else? That was when I was 25. My parents passed as I was 30. So in 2022, when they passed, um, I had become, or not 2022, 23. So the year after, I had become allergic to kiwi. I didn't really eat kiwi that much, so I didn't care. But I had become allergic to kiwi. Then after that, That's when I took an allergy test and I saw the markers for citrus were already on there. Citrus and pineapple was already on there. So, but then that allergy didn't come until like last year. And it's like this year, mango, all the good stuff, all the good stuff. So I'm like, what is happening to my body? Like, why is this happening? And I read this book by Maya Angelou called Me and Mom and Mom and Me, I think is the name of it. And she was talking about how in the book, her son had started developing allergies and she was in the office and she read a book about how people can develop or your children can develop allergies because they need more attention. And she wasn't capable of doing that because she was working all the time. And eventually she ended up working it out and his allergy issues were solved. But I'm like, surely it ain't just um what's the word? Surely it's not just attention for me. Like because I don't even like being in people's face all the time. But surely it's not that. So I kept just thinking and digging and wondering. And I want to say it was Louise Hay, You Can Heal Yourself, that book. I have like a PDF in my phone. I had decided to look it up finally. I don't know why I didn't think about it before. But it was saying that you're essentially giving your power away. And I had to sit with myself and think about, like, how am I doing that? How am I giving my power away? Like, what does that even look like? And I realized that I wasn't necessarily giving it away, but I was having a power leak, right? After I just thought about it for some months, talked about it with my therapist, of course. And I realized, like, oh, I'm kind of like needing people to show up for me emotionally and be specific things for me that they are not capable, willing, or even aware. Sometimes not aware, because everybody was made aware for sure. That's why I'm not I guess ashamed of talking about it. I mean, you couldn't shame me regardless. I don't really give a damn at this point. But I had conversations with everybody, right? So like I was measuring relationships about how well or by how well they were meeting my needs and expectations. And I'm not saying that anything's wrong with that. I'm never going to say anything's wrong with that. How you know, I still think that is necessary. There needs to be some type of reciprocity, some type of support, or what's the word? Connection. You know. So yeah, I was making other people responsible for my emotional stability and my healing process, and like feeling supported, thinking that I'm growing and going through this journey. So come along with me. And of course, we're not on the same timeline, you know. But the worst part of it all is that I'm facilitating my healing, like along with therapy, of course, but I'm facilitating my healing, and you are going on this healing journey with me, but you're not supporting me any differently. And when I say going on a healing journey, a part of my healing journey included fasting for financial trauma. And like you get tired being the only person facilitating, asking questions, and reframing and shaping things, and then nobody's doing that with you personally, right? So, like I said, when I was asking for help with my coaching business, the fasting and financial trauma support is the coaching. But when I was asking for help and I didn't get any help, I'm like, dang, it shook me like nervous system shake. Like I was, I don't want to say reeling, but I was destabilized for a very long time, and I almost broke. Um, but I had learned through my own self reflection that yes, I do need people, but I can't make people solely responsible for like meeting my emotional needs. The problem is when you don't have anyone who's doing that, what do? You then have to begin assessing your friendships and your relationship that you have. Because the relationship pattern was that I was the container. I'm the container in all the friendships that I have, but nobody's a container for me. That's not good. That's a lack of boundaries on my part. Number one, you've got to be honest and accountable. It's a lack of boundaries on my part, but also it is a I have to reframe and rearrange. Ooh, a newt. I have to reframe and rearrange and reprioritize these relationships so that it's not taking a lot out of me. So basically, it makes me think about how, when somebody online is complaining about like not being able to find love or whatever, and then people are always saying like, um, well, we have to love yourself. You have to love yourself. No, you don't. No, you don't. Finding love or loving yourself rather is not a prerequisite to finding and receiving love. However, the nuance is that if you don't love yourself, you may accept anything, you may not have any emotional boundaries, and you may miss or not be aware when something's not good enough. Like you just might put up with anything for lack of better words. So I'm checking my phone because I'm about to go to work, but I called the Uber. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, you might not recognize healthy love or trust it, and you may not choose people who are aligned with you like they should be or like you would like. So the core issue isn't the love; it's often alignment and sustainability and compatibility. And it took all these things happening to me to realize that I'm no longer compatible with these people. Like because I'm the only person that doesn't have parents, because I'm the only person that's grieving in this way. I'm not the only person grieving, okay? But I am the only person grieving in this way. Um, and I was just telling my best friend we were talking today, like we crash landed into our 30s. As I was approaching 30, both of my parents were gone. Then I have to deal with the residuals of grief and things of that nature. And other people were having kids, they were moving, they were starting school, starting new jobs, facing unemployment. Like we had all this stuff happening. So it's not like I needed everybody to drop everything for me, but like it can't be one sided. You feel me? So um as a result of that, they never had to show up differently with me. So it was hard for them to make that adjustment when I needed them to. And because I've always been the capable one, it can easily read as, okay, well, she got it, or she's fine, or she'll let me know if she needs anything. It's like, no, I need you to pay attention. I need you to anticipate needs. I need you to just consider what it feels like that I'm going through this. I need you to at least be curious and ask me what I'm thinking and how I'm feeling. And I'm not saying that I don't have anybody doing that at all. I do, right? But I don't talk to them as much as I talk to like all the other friends. So what I'm actually looking for and have to reprioritize because like me and another one of my friends who is also grieving, we had to realize that like we a certain role we play in the friendships that we had, but then also the fact that how she framed it like, oh, I don't think I'm a tier one friend for some people. And while I can't say I feel that same way because I have my best friend, that conversation did make me realize like, wow, there is a such thing as a relationship tiers, and we need to have this because everybody's not the friend to you, but you are to them. So I'm looking, like I said, I'm looking for people who have mutual emotional depth, who aren't afraid of emotions, who can listen to connect. Because I had got to this point where I got so tired of being the only person around me, or one of the only few people who had like this level of emotional maturity and emotional intelligence. Like I'm not quick to get defensive about things. I'm not quick to make excuses about things. I'm not quick to try to change the subject because I'm feeling uncomfortable. Like that's just not who I am. So like listening to connect is like very important to me in friendships in particular. And just looking for people who hold space for me as well. Like it can't just be about you or about them. So my current friendships, many of my current friendships, not all of them, they just don't match who I am anymore and what I need. And once that became clear to me, it's like I couldn't unsee what I was seeing. Keep in mind, speaking of seeing, I can't see myself on here. I see my shirt and the white, but the sun. It's the sun. So having said that, okay, I sat here and recorded this whole second half, and it did not have sound, and it just pissed me off because it is almost 2 in the morning. It 1:51. Pissed me off. So let me rehash it again for you all. Where I left off, or what I was saying, is that as a result of all these things that have happened, I gotta go back to my notes. Thank God for notes. Yeah, I've been grappling with how to reprioritize people in my life without discarding them, because discarding was the only thing that I knew. And I don't, it sounds harsh to say discard, but I say that in particular because I know how it feels and it doesn't feel good. Even if you have a mature conversation, it's still a discard at the end of the day. And it's like, it's easy to discard people. It's harder to try to do so with care or change the relationship um, on your end only without offending anyone or disrupting anything. And not that I don't want to disrupt anything, because at this point I don't give a damn anymore. Like people aren't considerate of me, so like I have to prioritize me. But I'm just used to moving on and not thinking twice about it because I've already reconciled in my mind and in my heart about what I think and feel. But trying to be different and trying not to discard or end things has kept me in this purgatory because it's new for me. And as a person who's lost so many people, like I didn't just lose my parents. I know I only been talking about my parents, but like we've lost several relatives in between all of this. Like my mom passed May 2022. She was the first person to pass in the family. And then like my aunt passed 9 months after that. They were like this. But it was a few people in between, my dad being one of them. Then there was a few people after my aunt. So, you know, I've had a lot of loss, but when you've had loss like that back to back, you don't want to lose more people. And that's what had me in a position of holding on. But you get to a point where you get tired of explaining, you get tired of asking to be considered, you get tired of coaching, and you get tired of teaching people how to love you. Like this experience for sure has taught me, if it has taught me nothing else, you don't teach people how to love you. They show you how they can love you and that they're capable and willing to love you. And when you've had conversations with people and not only have they not shown any willingness or capability of showing up differently, but they haven't had an inkling of change behavior. It's like, well, what do I do from here? Do I still discard like I wanted to do, or do I still reprioritize? And I'm still like figuring that out and what that looks like. But yeah, like you just get tired of crap. And I'm grateful. I will say I'm grateful and I'm proud of myself for not continuing to explain and coach and teach. I did that in a relationship once before, burnt me out. Not again, never again. It was, okay, one time we have a conversation, two times we have a conversation. We will not have a conversation for a third time because I cannot be the only person facilitating and following up on whatever was discussed. Like people would literally come back to conversation with me as if we didn't talk about what we talked about the last time. Like we still got business to finish, girl. What are you acting like it's another fucking Monday? Excuse me, YouTube. You act like it's another damn Monday. So I'm like, yeah, no, I'm no longer interested in trying to make it mutual. But there's also no hard feelings either. There is no bad blood. There's no beef. There's no hate. There's none of that. But you can't be close to me like I've had you close to me. And another thing I've been thinking about is how do I then go forward in these relationships when these people want access to me in the way that they had before and I'm not willing to give it? Like, what does that even look like? Like, what does it look like when you want to come and emotionally dump, or you need coaching, or you need support, or you need guidance, or you need to be heard and seen and witnessed, and I tell you that I'm no longer available for that? I'm sorry that you're going through this, but I don't think I'm the person that you should be talking to about that. Like, I haven't had that conversation with people yet, but I will be having that conversation because it will happen and will come up, right? And I've reconciled in my brain that if they are not in a position of harming themselves or others, then I absolutely don't have space for that. And it can feel like a tit for tat, but it's not. It's me protecting me because I know that if it were me, you wouldn't be doing this. You wouldn't be doing this. And something I've had to tell one of my friends is that if I were talking to you all about a relationship with a man, you would tell me to leave. So the same thing applies to you all. Either y'all are gonna have to go or you're gonna have to be deprioritized. Either way, something's gonna give, and it ain't gonna be me. You know? So I actually ended a friendship with the young lady because it just wasn't clicking for her. It wasn't clicking for her, and that's absolutely fine. Again, no beef, no bad blood, but it's like, I don't know what you heard from everything that I said, but I meant what I said, you know? So, having said that, the grief has definitely made me reflect on how I show up and how it was working against me, right? Because I was expecting people to meet me where I am. And that's hard to do if you are not at the same like level, journey, and healing process or status of where I am. Then, as a result of them not being able to show up or meet me where I am, I felt disappointed when they couldn't. And not even when they couldn't, because many didn't try. I was disappointed, and then I interpreted that disappointment as abandonment or betrayal. More so abandonment and rejection. So like, I had to reframe support and understand that not all of my friendships, because I didn't have a friendship tier before all of this, But like, not all of my friendships require deep conversations or like emotional depth, and I don't like that because I'm a yapper. I don't like small talk. I like to be intellectually stimulated. So, but I can at least be mindful about my time and conversation or things that I'm talking about. Um, and then also just understanding that not everybody's assigned to help you through certain seasons, or be with you through certain seasons. You know, so like grief has definitely shown me who people are, but most importantly, who I am in a relationship and how I show up. And I really have to do better about having emotional boundaries, which is it's been an ongoing journey with that because like any other person who's like into their own self-development and healing, you've read the books on boundaries, you may have done the workshop on boundaries, you've been discussing boundaries with your therapist, and it's like I've been doing that but I still hate it. I actually don't like having boundaries. I have a lot of love and insight and support to give, and I would like to get it back, right? But you won't always will. So you got to be mindful of whatever you're giving away. Are you okay if you don't get it back? Are you okay if you don't get anything in return? And a lot of times when it comes to emotional support and witnessing and seeing people, I'm absolutely not okay with not getting it back. So I have to stop that. And I also have to be considerate of the fact that it's okay to stop asking people to show up a certain way. It's okay to stop. I I asked once, I asked twice. I will not be asking the third time, and I'm proud of myself for doing that. So I think that's a step in the right direction of having the boundaries. But yeah, that, and then like understanding that I need to accept people for who they are, and I think that's easy for me to do because it's like I know that you can't help me. You're not the person I'm gonna call if I'm in crisis. I know that. So because I know that, let me reprioritize and put you somewhere else. I know that, and it is nothing against you, or it's nothing bad about you, or it doesn't mean you're a bad person. You're just not a person I can go to, and as a result, I can't be the person that you can come to, because I know I'm not going to get it in return, right? So, like I said, if a person is not like having an adverse impact, finna be homeless, finna be in jail, finna harm themselves, finna harm somebody else, I'm just not the person for that anymore. I can't do that. Like I know that's what you're used to because these are years, decades worth of friendships, but it's like that's not serving me anymore. So yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how to like navigate these transitions and changes um, in my friendships um, to where I understand who people are, but I understand who I am as well. And I am going into, I guess, this new chapter of my life very intentional about making sure that I get something in return. Leaving here with something, okay? Like I have to prioritize myself when others don't, if others can't, if others are not willing. I have to put my own needs first, and I have to protect myself, especially um, because people who lack boundaries, both sides, people who lack boundaries can either overgive or they can take, and not think about taking, not being responsible for taking, not being considerate of the impact of taking. Like, so both sides have a responsibility, but this ain't about them, it's about me. And my responsibility is definitely managing boundaries around time, emotions, spirituality. I say spirituality because I'm very clairvoyant. Like, I'm the friend that has spidey senses, and they be right. So, like, yeah, like, grief is a journey, man. It's really a journey. Like, and just anything in life. Like, sometimes I know I've prayed the prayer that I want to learn my lessons gently, right? But sometimes you won't learn the lesson any other way if you don't go through the actual journey. It won't stick. It won't make sense. It won't resonate if you don't go through that journey. So I think for this year, I've been asking to kind of like see what the lesson is and what's the next task to move forward. What is the lesson and what's the next task to move forward? Because it took me so long to even get to this point of understanding
what was going on and why things were the way that they were. One, because I compartmentalized. That's a whole other conversation. But two, when people aren't speaking the language you speak, when they can't articulate themselves like you do, when they are not in touch or in tune with their emotions like you are, it can be hard because then like relationships are supposed to be mirrors, but I'm not understanding what I'm seeing, or I'm not seeing anything that makes sense. So yeah, that's my recap. I'm not mad that I have to do it again because actually it's shorter than the one that didn't have sound. And I don't know how this sounds, but if it's sound on it, we're keeping it. I'm in the garage. It's the echo. The car's in here. It's stuff in here. It's just a damn garage. So it's whatever. That said, if you watched all of this all the way through, give me a like. Help a sister out. Give me a like, okay? Don't be over here tuning in and then you ain't leaving no offering for the lesson that you learned and the free advice or insight that you've gotten. Help me out. So I'm gonna see y'all next time for day 3, and that's when I'm gonna talk about dating because I referenced dating earlier, but I didn't realize that talking about the friendship part was gonna take as long as it did.